Regular meeting of the Columbia Board of Selectmen to order on Tuesday, December 6th, the year 2022, 7 p.m. This is a hybrid virtual meeting, both in person and virtual. The sessions being both video and audio recorded. Board and staff who are joining us virtually, please remain on mute unless you are called upon, or raise your hand if you are a subject matter expert, and we'll bring you on. If a member of the public joining virtually creates an audio or video disruption, we will reject them. And if you're attending virtually, or you are here and you are called on to speak, please include your name and address either way. And saying that, please help me join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We sent out the agenda, so and make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting. Wait a minute.
3 minutes.
Yeah, and make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. As a motion. So discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes for November 15th, 2022. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Audience of citizens. Would you like to speak on anything that's not on the agenda? Anybody in the chat, Mark? No, good, no, thank you. Old business, dedication of the annual report. I honestly haven't really thought of it yet. So has anybody come up with any, or do we talk about this? Every year we dedicate the annual report. We talked about it last time. So what we'll do is continue. If anybody'd like to nominate anybody, put some people out there, that's great. Send them to Mark, maybe in an email, or Jen, and we'll put a list together. And if we get a list, we'll throw it out there, and then we'll vote on it at the next meeting. How about that?
20.
Okay. New business. Proposal to contract for town planner services. It's no secret, our longtime town planner, Paul Stahl, has decided to retire. So we'll miss her, but before she goes, she asked that we put a plan in motion and try and get somebody in here before any large items come before the town and zoning that she will weigh in on, and then we'll have to lay off in the hands of a new town planner if it's not resolved or voted on before. Mark, you want to talk on that a little bit, or?
Yes, so we had this job posted for 6 months, and only received one applicant who did not, even though his energy and personality is fantastic, he has had 0 town planner background or training. Certainly somebody who we like to work with, but wasn't qualified. So one company was brought to my attention called Tai Chi Planning and Policy Group, and they sent a proposal that's before you. It's more expensive than what we were paying Paula, but I think it's very professional. I know John really well, and in the sense that I've worked with him for years, he actually has done this in the town of, I think, let me just think, I think it's been, I know Essex, I think Woodbury, and Paula, can you weigh in? Essex, Woodbury, just come to my head. Yeah. But also, John has been, he's been a planner for the city of Hartford. Town's big, town's small, and he has a proposal that has received legal review. It's got a few items that Rick and I have talked about, and I've talked to Rich Roberts. Rich thinks are easily solved, that they're not an issue, just tweak them in the wording. And the long range goal is not to stay with Tai Chi forever. I've been working with our Capital Region Council of Governments. This is a problem towns all over the state are having. The younger generation are not going to school to become professionals in running towns and cities. So there's a big shortage. And we've asked the Council of Government, CROG, that we belong to start a division, which today in the meeting, they actually had their hire of a department director to head this division up, to create a division of planning that towns could tie into their employees to supplement our needs. So what I said right off the bat was, hand over Columbia need a planner, can we share so many hours from the employee of the CROG to help run our town, and we'll pay the CROG. So they're working on that right now, and it's not just planner, it's fire marshal, it's building officials. They're trying to come up with key positions that towns are having trouble finding qualified personnel. So at the moment, this is a recommendation that I think could put someone on this, working for us right away, that's a professional, help us get through some of the immediate larger applications that are before us, with Paul leaving at the end of this, month.
Well, one of the important things is if CROG does come through with that, filling that position and being able to utilize that, you told me today about termination of this policy.
Right, it's a 12-month agreement, but it has a 60-day out. Either party may terminate this agreement on 60-day written notice, so without cost. That gives us the ability, if we line something else up, or another planner retires from, Enfield and says, hey, I'd like to just work out 5 years of retirement working for a small town. That's really where we find most of our employees. They're using it as more of a retirement job.
So, what's the cost on this and the difference?
It's $4,000 a month. Right now, we're paying Paula $3,307 a month.
So it's a
Does
difference.
that include all the benefits?
Paula's part-time and doesn't receive benefits.
Doesn't have any benefits. Does that include our social security part, our Medicare part? Or would you have to?
No, that's just exactly, that's hourly. Yes, you'd have to add that on top.
Okay, so it's
Right.
more than that. You're
Right.
probably talking closer to 3,600. So it's not a huge leap.
Right, correct.
But this gives us, we know that there's a couple of things coming before the town and zoning, and I think the town plan will have to be heavily involved. And I understand Paul's desire to get somebody on board to be able to put them at the ground floor of some of these things before she leaves, or before she takes on a portion of it and then has to turn it over, so. Without somebody else, without an individual, I think this is probably a way to go.
So it's the same person, it's not a different person.
Right, we'd be hiring John, but he does have a partner that could fill in if there's a gap where he needs help.
And how many communities do they presently work for?
I don't know that. I know he's working for at least 4 or 5. And the challenge was he could make it work for us because we meet twice a month on Mondays. Another planner I reached out to, she couldn't, her town, she handled is Mondays. Another planner I reached out to, our schedule didn't work for him either. So you know, these boards and commissions, there aren't that many nights that are available. We're all locked up the entire month. So, you know, have a whole lot of flexibility.
And she would be via Zoom for the meetings.
Well, right, I know, Rick and I had talked, he wants to bring planning back into person, and you have. I haven't asked John, if needed, could he come in person for a major, like, public hearing or something?
Where is
I
he?
would imagine the answer would have to be yes, because we don't always publish on Zoom the public
Right.
hearings, so.
Yeah, because I mean, right now, the assumptions say it's only 8 hours per week or 2 half-days on site. Is there any limit on Zoom and availability on?
No, because he knows other meetings would have to be by Zoom, and he's basically having a lump sum, but he has to get the job done. And it requires an extra meeting on a Tuesday with a resident to go over or something, you'd have to.
Right, but I mean, all these other duties like preparing zoning and revisions, like I know your board, just the process of reviewing a lot of things, including revisions. I mean, only on site 1 day a week or 2 half-days supporting meetings, and I'm not sure, does this fulfill your needs of what you're trying to?
It sounds like it's on point. Yeah, I have a lot of confidence in Mark's judgment of the character and the personality of the person, a great deal of confidence in that. You know, we have a high bar to meet because we've had the luxury of having one of the best planners this town's ever had in Paula Stahl. She's done a very good job.
And Paul is on, she knows John and did talk to him about this and explained exactly what the role would be, and he felt he could handle
Paul, I'm gonna ask you if you'd like to weigh in on this.
Certainly. Good evening, everyone. It's mixed emotions that I'm retiring, but because I've enjoyed Columbia for 20 plus years, but it's time. And I knew it was going to be difficult to find a planner because there aren't very many people out there coming into the field. So, which is one of the reasons I gave a 7 months notice. But I think that I've known John Gutowski for years and years and years, and I've worked on many projects with him, and he's excellent. And I think it would benefit the town to have somebody of that quality. And it's the hours I've been putting in lately are more than 8, but my budget is for 19, which I needed when we were doing extensive zoning regulation revisions, which we've gotten most of that accomplished. So that's Mark asked me how many hours, and I said most of my hours would probably be like 10 to 15 hours a week would work. And we have an immediate need for a planner because we have a public hearing coming up at the beginning of January. That is an important one that the planner needs to have spent some time with the plans, with deciding whether or not it's all components of it are in compliance with our regulations. So it's important to have somebody on board very quickly. And I would urge the Board of Selectmen to appoint Taish for an interim, at least for the interim planner. It may be a little longer than you intend, just depending upon whether or not somebody else can step forward.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have a question for Paul while she's on?
I guess I have more of a general question. Do we know for certain that this gentleman, John, will be the one who'll be servicing, or is this a consultant group that's got multiple people that they could delegate or assign?
We're hiring John, but he'll have partners if he needs some help.
Paragraph 16, either party may, through notification of the other party, change its principal contact person from time to time during the term of this agreement. So it's our best intention to work with John, but if John has to take a leave of absence, or if John's on vacation, or
Has a conflict.
then somebody else will be stepping in, but I will say this, if any of us are sick, or if you know, if we move away and nobody's indispensable, we'll have to work with what we have.
So Jen and I.
So
Except you, yes.
Except Jen and I.
yeah, we keep telling you. Yeah, we move on. So this is probably our solution right now. I do know that that public hearing in January is probably be well attended or a lot of interest. So I think we get somebody or some firm on board quicker than later.
And somebody who's experienced, you know how to deal with this stuff.
And I also have enjoyed working with Paul on a number of occasions, and on this, that's why I asked her to weigh in on this. She knows him, she's highly respects John, and I believe what Paul says. I don't think she leads us astray, so. So my motion is that we authorize the town administrator to enter into a contract as proposed with minor revisions, Mark, you get them to it, with Tai Chi Planning and Policy Group. As soon as possible, when, next Monday? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, and I will start working with John and make it as smooth a transition as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks, Rick. Okay, next is the approval of the budget workshop and calendar of our budget process. So always a fun time during the year and a very busy time. So it's laid out for you. You'll see that February 14th, Valentine's Day is not on here. We skipped a week. Vacation. We have a lot of time in here. It always seems like a lot of time, but
Never is enough.
yeah, it always seems like we our nose to the grind, shoulder to the wheel type of thing. So I'd like to approve this. So I make a motion, we approve the fiscal year 23-24 budget process calendar as presented. Discussion? I think last year, the Board of Selectmen had actually canceled a couple of meetings because we were able to go through the budget process and put it to 5-pack in a manner that, you know, we were happy with. Sometimes it has to come back, but I think the calendar fits what we need to do. Anyone else? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Zegda Farm Management Committee for funding to bring the hay lot back into full hay production. We have a gentleman here. I'm sorry, your name, sir?
Jeremy Zarell.
Jeremy Zarell, who currently hays the Zegda Farm lower field.
No, the back one,
The
yeah.
back field.
Yeah.
The back one.
About 4.5 acres,
Give or take, yeah.
give or take.
Yep.
And I know that you've been working, or Tom McGrath has looked into it and I hope has talked to you about it.
Yeah.
There's need to do two things, bring that hayfield back into robust and be able to get it growing how you want it to. And there's a proposal here or to not worry about haying it, just keep it mowed so it's not kind of overgrown in on. So, Mark, you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, Jerry, were you able to get the actual Yukon recommendation?
I did, yeah, they came in the mail finally last week.
Okay,
Yep, I did get it. And it's not too far off from the original one from 2 years ago that we discussed earlier, or actually last month. So the numbers have not changed.
and does it still require $3,890 worth of line? It seems like a lot of line.
It's a little less. The original recommendation was for 3,000 pound per acre. This one is 2 to 2,500. So 500-pound less burden.
Before we're throwing out stuff there, and so I'm gonna jump in here and tell me what this is about and what the plan is,
Okay, the
what
plan,
the ask is.
the plan is to bring the field back into full hay production. I started haying it about 2 years ago. Tom McGrath got in touch with me, looking for somebody to start putting some effort into this field, bringing it back into agricultural use. I got in touch with Tom, and then, the other person that helped me write the lease, I got his name here, but his name escapes me right now.
Jason.
Jason, thank you. Jason helped me put together a lease with the town, and I started working on it, getting it cleared off, started putting some fertilizer on, doing some soil analysis to see exactly what we're dealing with and making adjustments as need be. I cut it for the first time last year. The first cutting was mainly just to clean it off because it had sat fallow for so many years and there was a lot of stuff that was just plain growing that needed to be removed. The second cutting came, it was decent hay by that point in time. Put it to bed last fall and got going on it again this spring. It was a little bit lighter this spring. Got another set of soil analysis, did a little bit more to it. First cutting, they're okay. The problem came with the hot, dry summer this year. The hay didn't grow. I mean, anybody around here that is involved in that notices that after, even by the end of August, the grass was only 4 or 6 inches tall. What did happen is the hot, dry weather brought out a bumper crop of the horse nettle in the hay fields. And I cut primarily for horse use hay, not for mulch, not for cows, anything like that. And the amount of horse nettle that existed in the grass made it toxic to the point where I didn't even bother cutting and baling it. Because I wouldn't be able to sell it. I wouldn't be able to use it for my own horses because it is toxic enough that it will hurt them. In some cases, it can kill them. The other reason I didn't bale it is because there was so much in that field that if I put my equipment in there, the risk of transporting plants, seeds, mowers get really messy after you're cutting to another field was great as well. So I went down there in the fall and I ended up just kind of mowing everything off with a different mower, brought that back and washed everything up in an effort to prevent transplant of invasive species, particularly the nettle. The plan originally, rewinding a little bit to last spring, was to do a full-blown fertilizer treatment on the field. The line, what Yukon called for calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium. I work with Nutrient Ag Solutions up in East Windsor, who will custom mix a fertilizer based on this analysis. So there's really no shooting in the dark as far as I think it needs this, I think it needs that. They will look at whatever the data from Yukon says and says, okay, this is what you need pounds per acre. Here's when you apply it, here's how much you apply, go and do it. The plan was to do that last spring. The price for fertilizer had more than tripled. And at that point last spring, I could not justify the cost of the fertilizer based on what I would get for the yield out of it. So I didn't do it last spring. Tom and I have talked, and Mark has talked with myself and Tom as well about the feasibility of possibly doing it this year to get it back into hay production. The amount that I was asking for here in the proposal of 5283.40, which was based on the current prices from Nutrien on November 8th when I called them. Buying fertilizer right now and buying lime is a lot like buying diesel fuel and home heating oil. It changes on a daily, weekly basis. So that quote is based on those numbers. That number of the 5283 is the big chunk to put it back into production. That's not the yearly maintenance fee for that piece of property. That is what it needs right now to get it up and running again. based on a conversation that Mark and I had and Tom and I had a couple weeks ago, I did go back just out of curiosity because the topic came up about what a yearly maintenance fee would be on a piece of property, starting with this type of ground, adding lime to, adding fertilizer, et cetera, after a number of years. I do have another piece of property about the same acreage that started about the same in 2016. And after applying the lime and fertilizer and everything based on UConn's analysis, and this is for 2023, my input for that, call it 5 acres, would be $560 per year. That's what's gonna go into it this year. So that's kind of to give you a little bit of breakdown of what the initial investment would be compared to what a maintenance would be on a piece of property that size, that acreage, growing grass hay.
Okay, so, you hay it, the hay is yours, you take it, sell it, use it, whatever.
Yep,
Basically, in return, Columbia gets a nice agricultural farm, field, hay, visual, all the beauty of farming life.
plus what I pay in lease.
Yep,
I like a little bit about the history of that,
not yet,
not yet.
because I'll forget my questions. If we do not hay, if we do not approve this 5283,
Mhm.
okay? What happens to the field?
Basically, from my standpoint, is I have a 5-year lease on it. We're going into year 3. If the cost for me is more in the lime, the fertilizer and the diesel fuel than what I can make on the hay that I pull off of it, I can't justify doing it.
Right,
The haying for me is a hobby. I enjoy doing it. I grew up doing it. It's something that like every summer I kind of feel like I have to do it, and it's what I really enjoy. But in the same breath, it is a business. And if I'm laying out thousands of dollars for diesel fuel and fertilizer and whatnot, and I'm only making a few hundred on the sales, hey, I can't justify the output.
yeah, that, everybody understands that.
Yeah.
What happens to the field then? It overgrows in 20 years and becomes a forest, or what?
In having kind of been down that road before, if nobody touches it, probably within the first 2 to 3 years, you're gonna start getting trees and brush. Within 5 years, you're gonna have stuff that's, yay big around, and within 10 years, it's gonna look like the woods on either side of it. Is about what it's gonna come back to. It, agricultural fields like that, you'd be surprised how quick they grow in if they're not mowed and maintained.
Yeah. And the benefit of, if it wasn't beneficial, if it didn't make you money or enough to do it. Again, we're all business people in some respect, we understand that. Okay, I mean, so we let it go to forest. That's just our decision. So in saying that, is it better to have agricultural hayfield or let it go to forest? Open space is open space or what? Talk to me.
I guess,
Leonard, your history.
Yeah, there you go.
nobody, yeah, that field was cleared probably, I want to say in the 50s, when my father had cleared it because there wasn't a lot of good land there to grow anything, so he cleared that. But that land is got very little topsoil and poor drainage. So they started with corn, grew corn there. And I don't know how many years, let's say a couple of years, and then it just didn't work because by August, it wasn't growing anything. So then they tried hay and the same kind of thing. By August, they couldn't, if it's hot, it wasn't growing. So then they just used it for grazing for the cows for a long time. And so I guess my question is, because of the nature of the land, even if you did all that, would it, over time, you have to keep doing it, how much more? And I don't know if you can answer that. I
$5
just,
a year.
yeah, well, I know that's what you're saying, but I'm just thinking it still may need more lime. over time. I mean, it does, lime helps, but you may need that much every year to maintain it, because I know my father just gave up on it and didn't think it was worth it.
And that would be something, the best honest answer to that question would be to see what it does. And UConn recommends every 3 years to give it another look, through their analysis, and they would be able to tell you kind of exactly what's going on with that, as well as how things are growing. I mean, you can visually get a pretty good idea of how the dirt's doing based on how the grass is growing, what it looks like, colors, how early it comes in and whatnot. You can kind of judge roughly what's going on. They would be able to give you the definitive answer on, is that nutrient staying in the store, is in the soil, is it being absorbed elsewhere, is it leaching out?
Yeah,
That I couldn't tell you,
I know, and it's,
give you a definitive
right,
answer.
it's
on.
hard to get an
Yeah.
answer to that, but I just know it's just very poor drainage up there for whatever reason, you know, that just not a great spot to grow stuff, or it hasn't been through the years. So if we did it, would we, you know, would you, you know, it just, would you have to do more again? And you're right, UConn does a great job of giving testing the soil and all that stuff. They've always done a great job, but I know they gave up because it just wasn't worthwhile for them. I remember when.
And you would have had the ability to put down manures and stuff where they would have
They-
built up the topsoil.
My brother put manure there for 30 or 40 years. That's where he put cow manure all the time.
And it still just ate it up.
And yeah, so, I mean, so it's been taken care of. They need, it was a nice, they cleared it. There was a nice flat area to grow stuff, so they liked it initially. And then it just didn't grow stuff well. So I just question if it's a great spot, that's all. With that history, and it's hard to, you know,
Yeah,
until you see it. I mean, to be honest, I think my grandpa would love it that you're doing that up there. But, he would have like appreciated it taking care of the land.
Zing, if you don't want to cut a check.
But I think it's cool. I'm just not sure if it's a great spot. That's,
no, I understand that.
that's, but you've done a lot of stuff. That's cool.
But the other option is you would, or we would hire somebody to brush hog to keep the cut back.
And that's
That-
not easy to find.
That I, as a person on an agricultural lease who's doing farming, haying, whatnot on that piece of property, to my knowledge and the way it was explained to me, falls into one category. I'm a licensed contractor by profession. I am not a licensed contractor, an insured contractor to operate heavy equipment on public property. I'm only good for private and residential.
Yeah.
So if you said, hey, Jeremy, I want you to come down with your equipment as a town contractor and brush hog this off 3-4 times a year, I'd have to respectfully decline on that one. You'd have to find a contractor that's licensed and insured to run heavy equipment on public land. Is the way it was explained to me.
This is the point where I try to be funny and say, don't you have lights on your equipment? But,
I do, but I
thank you for your
also,
comments, sir. I get it. So, anybody else on the board want to weigh in on this?
I'm conflicted. I'm very conflicted because part of me would. Did you know there's only one state in the United States, and this was years ago, so it could have changed, that can actually feed itself from a. And to lose farmland that you just never know. My parents came from World War II Europe. You never know when you actually need agricultural land to grow something on. You don't. Trust me on that, you don't. You
Well,
get
and the
turned
land does
down.
go fallow. I mean, goes back to woods in seconds.
Oh, my gosh,
Unbelievable.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's no doubt
It's-
about that.
10 years
And then it's a huge cost to clear.
Yeah.
And effort.
and a lot of sweat.
Yes.
So, I don't know.
I'm inclined to support it, because I think, you know, we've got a handful of working horse farms around here, and I think contributing to the supply of hay and supporting local businesses, I think it
We could add
to be beneficial.
ARPA funds for
Um,
acquisition.
I We kind of agree with you. I'd rather see an open field than more forest, but I'm gonna call on Ann Dunick, and because she is an open space. She's subject matter expert.
I want to remind you that the board of selectmen approved a management plan for that property. And usually when you make decisions, you consult the management.
Well, since you
Thank
have the
you.
management plan, what would the management plan have? Because I don't remember.
Agricultural.
I'm
use.
actually consulting you. You're here.
Okay.
No, I agree with
In
you.
the management plan.
But I don't think in that management plan, we saw an investment to something that we're not even 50% sure is going to be able to be fulfilled. And especially, for Jeremy to do his hobby, but feed his animals and make $1 or $2. So
Let me ask you, how many tons do you need, of lime do you need? Because I just did look like a lot, because I'm looking online, it was looking like, if you got it by the truck, it was
Yeah.
$45 a ton. And when you look at like 20 tons, that's like $900. So I guess that dollar amount threw me off too.
Where are you finding?
I looked online and maybe I was off, but I typed in lime costs in Connecticut for 2022.
Okay.
And that's where it came up with that. What are you finding?
I'm getting it, my price comes from Nutrien Ag Solutions up in East Windsor, who is a fertilizer plant and a fertilizer mix plant. And they quoted me, lime on
How much per ton?
November 8th at, say, $260 a ton.
260.
$260 a ton, bagged, picked up.
So that, how delivered, how about if you did it by a truck instead of bagged and delivered?
The problem with the Zigda farm, if I had it delivered to some of my other fields, I could have them drop it and that wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
The problem is getting in and out of there with any kind of truck. And then I have to, okay, I got a pile of lime, or they would bring it in bulk bags, 2,000-pound bags, or they would bring it 50-pound bags in a pallet. Then I gotta move it from
They wouldn't just dump it,
the
put
park.
it in the bag
No,
and move?
and then I would have to move it from the parking lot, the pole barn,
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
back into that field. If I go with these guys, which are bulk bagged at $260 a ton, I can get it on my flatbed trailer and I can bring it from the plant, Nutrien in East Windsor, directly to the field and pull my tractor up next to it and load it.
So they won't give, because of path, they'd stop big enough for the truck to.
They cannot get in there with, they won't go down in there with their
Too small.
delivery truck. It's too steep and the wet spot in the bottom. They basically have a triaxle dump truck with a load body on it, and they will not go down in there. And I have,
Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I can say something. I'm a little concerned about the history that Judy outlined in terms of the property. I'm concerned that considering all the resources that were put into that piece of property over the years and what occurred this past summer in terms of the heat, it doesn't appeal to me. I'm not an expert at it. I'm better able to address item 7.4, but I think that it's not something that I'm just concerned about the cost, whether this is something that's going to be thrown quick money after next.
Yeah, that's really my concern, not that it shouldn't be done.
But in respect to Ann, her comments, that does not mean we wouldn't contract to have it cut, maintained, the boundaries maintained, so.
Jeremy, did you figure out a revised price based upon the latest at 2,000, 2,500 an acre instead of 3,000?
I can do that really quick. Let's drop it in there.
Use 2,000, not 2,500. Drop it $1,000.
Yeah, so we'll get
2,000 pounds an acre, 260, that's 1,050. 1,050 instead of.
I say 1,300.
line
Yeah.
instead of 3,800.
Well, if figuring 260 a ton, 1 ton per acre times 5 acres.
1280,
260. Oh, there we go. Yeah, you're right.
no,
260 times 5,
Times 5 is
1,300.
1,300, yep.
So instead of the 3,890,
That would be 1,300 based on the 2,000 pound, yeah, at the current price.
1,300 plus the herbicide would still be 200.
Yep, that's still the same, and the other actual fertilizer mix would still be the same.
So now you're down to 2,693,
Yes,
which
It's palatable.
that might be worth the experiment. See how we do. That cuts it almost in half. You're gonna spend that brush hog if we walk away from it. Because the ideal situation is Jeremy does profit, so it's worth his while to manage this as a small business and we.
did you pay, what, $500 for Lisa?
that was the first agreement, the first few years, I'm not paying a lease on it because it was kind of starting from scratch, yeah.
Okay,
And then after that, it was $100 a year. Back to the original agreement.
Because we knew it was gonna take 5 years to get it
That's correct. yeah.
working, and then we put it back out
Yeah,
again, we redid it.
exactly. After the 5 years are up and it's back into production. Yeah, by year 4, it's 160, yeah. Year 5 would be 320.
how much is the price? Did you come up with a new revised one?
2,693, so 2,700.
Usually when people rent land for growing things, it's not up to the landowner to pay for this stuff. Or maybe we're looking at differently because of farm management, but usually landowners don't pay for that. It's the person who's doing that.
Right, and if we didn't have these problems with the nettle and the fields are not generating enough hay for the second cut to shade the nettle from growing, basically. Jeremy would be making money.
And originally too, the way it started, the first couple of years, that I got going with this, I was covering the cost of the fertilizer and everything else out of pocket. It's that when the prices of everything increased tremendously, Tom and I got talking and said, hey, is there, a way? Because last year I didn't put anything on it because I couldn't justify the cost.
Right.
And Tom and I got talking about it and said, hey, can we possibly help you out a little bit to bring this back into agricultural production?
So we haven't given you any money.
What's that?
We haven't given you any
No.
money to start with this
No.
back.
No,
It was just instead of paying the 5 something, you're paying 100 or nothing.
well, I'm still in the lease agreement and that lease will be paid in December.
Yeah.
We could just say not to charge any money for the lease. We could go that way.
The $100?
I thought it was 5.
It's 500 for the 5 years.
It's 500 for the 5 years.
Total.
That's
Well,
$100 a year.
$100 a year.
So we forego his $100 to ask him to pay $2,700 to try and get the field up and running? Kind of tough though. So do we approve the $2,700 or we find somebody to brush hog it for $1,000? That's the question.
I'm inclined to support $2,700 to give it a shot. To bring it into agriculture, that's the alignment with the management plan. It benefits local horse farms.
How about a portion of that?
That's what I was thinking. Can we split the difference somehow? I mean, is that feasible at all to? We put in some,
Let's say that produces first and second cutting for you. You making enough money to cover half of this? $2,700 divided by 2 is $1,350.
They're probably good, yeah. Probably good.
or even, contingent on the fact that even get a portion of your second cutting, you know what I mean? It's contingent on you getting a second cutting.
All right, I make a motion, we approve $1,500 for the hay field restoration at Zegda Farm. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. It was quiet, but we got it, so that's what we're gonna do, we're gonna give you $1,500, you're gonna put in whatever, and let's hope you grow some hay and make some money on there. All
Give
right,
it our best shot, I always do.
I know you do. So,
That's cool.
There's also your sweat you need to pay for.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Halloran and Sage. Mark, you're up.
I think while Henry was our lead, we never saw a rate increase in 2004.
Every second counted.
Rich Roberts contacted me and said, requested to move the partner rate from 155 an hour to 175, and the associate rate from 125 to 145 as of January 1st, if possible. Just to bring you up to speed, out of our 55,000 for legal, which is in our budget, we've only spent a little under 7,000, so we're doing fine. We haven't had any major lawsuits or anything.
What do we budget every year?
55,000, that's all legal
We've spent under 7.
so far. I've enjoyed working with Tyler Sage. Rich responds to me immediately every day whenever I have a call. I know Rich Rick Nassif, working relationship with Rich as well.
I can't say enough about the quality of the work.
Right.
I really can't. It's been superb.
So the firm has been supporting us, in my opinion, well, and he will build things.
I think the rates are reasonable, proposed rates. A dozen years ago, we had some issues with Halloran and Sage over the amount of the bills, and they were, they've been very cautious since then and kept things pretty much under control. So I'm comfortable with this proposal.
I know I paid a whole lot more than that when I needed to consult on a job.
So I have a question, not to pick on McMaster, because I've been in the office and I've heard that so-and-so checked with the town attorney, so-and-so checked with the town attorney, so-and-so's gonna check with the town attorney. Has the attorney on speed dial, or has the authorization to consult with the town attorney? And if they do they get that authorization on the needed basis from you?
Yes, so for basic questions, you're not gonna rack up a lot of bills. Paula or Connie can call Rich. But if we're talking about anything that could result in a lawsuit or a defensive strategy, we have a meeting with my department head, and we talk about how do we head this off for the least amount of cost and legal expenses possible. That's always at the forefront of what we do.
May I comment on that?
Sure.
I don't reach out to Rich unless I go through the town administrator's office. I don't reach out directly to him unless I have prior direction to do that. So I'm really frugal about that. I'm always asking how much did we spend on this project in legal expenses, ever since we had that failed lawsuit to collect a fine that never got that got reduced by a court judgment, I'm very cognizant of legal expenses versus.
You're just a FYI for me, because I
No,
know,
it's
like I
a good
said, I walked
question.
into different places and sometimes I.
It's a question that should be
I
asked.
don't know.
I'm always saying how much, you know, I want to know what the town's spending. I want to make sure that if we're going to invest money in a legal opinion on something, it's because it's a reasonable use of town resources to get that advice.
We always want to try to settle out of court whenever possible. Usually I bring it to the board whenever.
Yep.
You say this on Zoom that's being recorded.
We don't like to go to court.
So, I move to approve the proposed increase in rates from 155 to 175 for partners and 125 to 145 for associate effective January 1st, 2023 in the town's contracted agreement with Halloran and Sage legal firm. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Gate for Wellswood Road, Tom McGrath and Friends of Mono Pond have asked that we install a gate at the trailhead for the Wellswood Road. Not to be locked, but to have it there with a large sign saying no motorized vehicles can come through here, walking cars only. And so I think it's a good idea. I know the ATVs can get in 1,000 different ways. But if the sign is on there, at least we have, maybe keep some people out, but also keeps the trucks out and stuff. It will not be locked. I'm not sure why.
Well, because the state has access into the state park to there. If they want to bring vehicles in to do work.
Have them call us.
And so, well, some private.
We have to make a management plan as well still.
Private people want to bring in one.
No, I think I was talking to Tom, he had some concerns about that private, people who own property there, private property owners may want to access it
But
too.
if we put a sign here that says no motorized out,
But that's why we didn't want to have it locked because of that.
I think it'll evolve as we move with the state towards making this a real state park with access. for-
I was just questioning where, I think, I'm not sure. I mean, what's a good spot for it, I think, to try
Well, I'm
to.
not sure I agree with where Tom recommends down by the schoolhouse. I'm thinking more up closer to Margaret's house.
all right, we'll take a look at it.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think the idea is a great idea, it just wasn't sure the location.
The only issue is, I don't know if they're still doing it, but DPW often dumps excess snow.
And this will go through Beth Lund. I haven't even
Yeah.
brought Public Works into this yet. So we'd have to strategize exactly where the gate would go.
Okay.
And it would be a basic farm gate. It's not a mix, not an elaborate gate at all, between two telephones.
It's more of serving notice on the ATVs.
All right. Move to approve the gate installation of Wellswood Road at a location to be determined to best suit the needs of the park and the town. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Nothing at the lake? Appointments and resignations. Jason Baldwin was on the zoning board of appeals. He was an alternate. He has resigned from that position. We don't need a motion. Town administration report.
I just want to give you a quick update before I get into what I published here, that we had contracted with Eversource, and actually they're doing this at no cost to the town. We've had so many power outages on the old Willimantic Road section of town that Eversource committed to doing some serious pruning in there, and they've been doing it. I don't know if you noticed the big giant 200-year-old oak. We actually cut the dead parts over the road. It's still hazardous to the owner, but it's now safer for car traffic. And that's going along really well. And Next, once they get done with that, we're gonna move them to Lake Road and start working there, which is also a tough area to hit for power outages. The town is also involved with a whole cybersecurity online training program. I just passed my how to avoid online scams
Congratulations.
tonight. Jen did as well.
Can you teach us?
Well, actually, these are really good, and they actually watch little movies of actors scamming employees to give information and hit this link so we can give you another W-2 file that you need to sign, and it activates a Trojan into our server, and all the stuff we have to worry about now. So it is good training. We also qualified, we were approved from Eversource for a grant request for all those EV stations at the senior center, the library, the Horse School, the town hall, Murphy House, and town garage.
It's an EV station.
Electric vehicle charging station.
Oh, the chargers.
Now we're waiting to see, our application was deemed administratively sufficient. And we're being evaluated for the Volkswagen funding, due to their punishment that'll come from deep.
Did we finalize all those?
Now, I'm going to bring everything back to you once we have
Thank you.
the final grant understanding, and then we'll decide
Yeah.
how much,
Yeah, we
how much
weren't,
we want
I
to do.
wasn't sure.
Yeah, okay.
So this is in the works still. Friends of Monopon are an officially incorporated 501c3. And just wanted you to know that. And now they're going to look into ongoing expenses to try to partner with the state. Good news from Honor Lawler that we just got back that the state is actually back to work and will be communicating with us and agreeing to putting together a whole trail program, working with us. And also
National Mountain
mountain
Bike.
biking group, all those groups. So that's all coming together finally. We've advertised for a building committee for the school HVAC air quality system. We've got 2 applicants already. Friend of yours, Bill David, I talked to him and he's filling out an application right now.
Great guy.
Yeah, he seemed real qualified. And who's the other applicant we got?
Jeff Collins.
Jeff Collins, who retired, lives in Columbia and ran an HVAC business of his own for 30 years.
Oh, good.
So he knows his way around air quality. So I think we've got 2 great candidates already. And I have not heard from the board of that yet.
So it's manageable. How many members do you think we ought to have on that? I'm just asking that question because if we.
6 or 7, I would think.
As many bodies as you can. I don't think you gotta set a number.
You don't think we should have to set a number?
I don't know if you're not gonna achieve the number, you know.
Well, if we say 3, we might get there.
No wonder if Alan Harbeck, he does HVAC, he's about to retire.
Okay, so we just, and when we get enough, we call it?
Can you reach out
I
to
think
him?
at least 7.
Yeah.
If it can get more, great.
Yeah,
That would be good.
Alan would be good, right? It just dawned on me, yeah, he had an HVAC company for
What's the last name?
Harbeck. They live at the end of,
HERBEC.
yeah, they live at the end, it would be 212 Pine Street.
To be exact.
No, they live in front of my daughter, it was 214.
Oh, you're good.
All right. And if you know him, then
Yeah.
tee up or else
I'll-
I'll call
I
him.
don't know if I have his contact information. but-
We'll work on it. Okay, I got it down. That's just an update there.
Mark, I think you skipped over the update on Morris Porter School HVAC grant, which you're
Oh,
already talking about.
so the grant was submitted and the state confirmed that they received our application and will be analyzing to see whole, but at the moment, what we want to do is get this building committee going and really try to hire a consultant that could put together a recommended bid spec so that we could actually try to agree as to what we need to solve the issues over there. And I think we need to do that no matter what. But at the same time, while we're waiting for whether we qualify for a grant.
Okay.
And then Ingrid Wood applied for a grant and received $650 to do a, it's an archiving of a collection she has over in the history place. So we want to thank Ingrid for her due diligence and trying to do as much as she can to digitize her archives. And also the opioid settlement funds have hit the state. And our portion for the next 2 years will be $1,676. And I don't know if there'll be further funds after that, but I just got a report.
And what will we use that on?
They suggest 4 different parameters that we use it on, which is, they recommend public messaging campaigns, prescriber engagement involving education and tracking and monitoring, harm reduction and treatment strategies. So I'll be sitting down with our social worker, Katie Wilk, and Bernadette Daring. There are also links here for treatment resources and see if we can come up with something to help us.
Pay for a billboard, right?
For what?
Pay for her billboard.
She actually got a grant for that.
Oh,
Yeah,
Is that
so that-
billboard still standing?
I haven't seen
It was only up for a certain.
I think it's
time.
it. I think it's down. No, the one that knocked down was not the one that had a
No,
sign on it.
but it was only up for a short, I think for 30 days or 60 days. It wasn't up for a long period of time.
Right, I think it's up there.
Can I go back to the grant for the horse ported AC system? We had a lot of questions that we wanted the school to answer. So could we kind of let them know, or maybe you have already let them know what the questions are, so that if and when we get the grant, that we're a little bit ahead of the game.
I'm thinking that's the job of the building committee now to really dive in.
Where did we put our grant requested amount?
1.8 million.
I'm just thinking how to move it along,
That seems to be worst case.
just so, because we just had a lot of questions on it.
I don't think there's a lot of answers. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But we.
I don't think they have the answer.
So the building committee will,
That's more for just the A wing, right?
No,
No, that's
that
the,
was the A wing,
that's a full blown air quality,
It's
air
1.8.
handling,
1.8.
and upgrading the electrical.
okay. So the building committee will kind of in charge of
Find
that.
the answer.
Dive into that.
Well, analyze and figure out what we're doing and why and all that kind of stuff.
Next, please.
Okay.
We're doing road.
Oh, I don't know if you have been down there, Donnie, but I talked to Beth and the guys did such a fantastic job. We literally got that done in 3 days. And then the cement poured right before the rain, and then rain all Thursday, and then we got it all paved and opened back on Friday. They repointed the head wall, we dug out the capstones from the lake that had fallen in, then back up and repaved it. And that literally, those 2 cement culverts are now in a giant cement crypt. So they put a lot of cement to lock those in, and they pulled out a lot of stones that were the reason that road kept collapsing. The way it was originally built.
Is that the culvert that was near the area where they asked us to put signs for people to not park?
Yes,
Yes,
exactly right there.
Good time.
Another good thing is while we were renting the giant, backhoe, whatever, it's big
Steam shovel.
loader, we were able to get some of those trees out of the wetlands that were blocking the drainage, so
Oh,
that helped us too. We didn't have a piece of equipment big enough until we rented that.
good.
So I just know that saved us probably at least $100,000 to $300,000. If we had to subcontract the whole thing, it would have been about 300.
Was that in our budget?
The cost of what we did was in our budget, yes. So we did well. So I just want to add
So you're done with, but can you, let me ask some time, administrator, you see the Department of Transportation, we did.
I did, it's so nice.
Is
Yeah.
it working out?
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay. You know, for those
I
who don't
go
know, it's
there
Pine
every
Hunt
day.
Road, right, on 66. The,
It's a little tight, I gotta tell you, I think that phone pole on
gonna go, so.
I
On
think
the
that's in the
west-
way of seeing the stop sign.
the west corner,
Yes,
the southwest corner,
Mhm.
it's gonna go one day.
well, and
That
it blocks
pole,
the
yeah.
stop sign.
It always has.
You see the telephone pole, and then that stop sign is like peeking behind it.
Well, it always has.
So why don't we put a letter out to Eversource and tell them we're gonna, can they?
Stop signs
reposition?
aren't a problem.
No, the
Oh, the
pole
The pole.
could stand to go back a
So
little
we
bit.
send them another letter saying, it has come to our attention, we find it to be in a position that is visually impaired, sightline issue, just so you have been
It
notified,
has always
and
been.
so if something happens.
Yeah, so like, I know too, they cut back on the commuter lot, that curve.
Yeah,
came out
that was
so far.
great.
It required you to literally almost get in 66 before you could take a right, so now you can cut it.
Yeah, they take out a space or two.
I don't think it really
They didn't
mattered,
need to.
because it really wasn't, nobody had to park.
It was in the
right there.
back out area.
Right.
It wasn't in the space area.
So, and going home, it does veer me to the right a little bit,
Yeah.
and I can shoot straight
I gotta
through.
tell you, I feel better just waiting there, sitting there like a duck waiting to turn left.
Because someone's gonna just plow in you.
Okay, thank you. And last thing, for those who don't know, rec department on December 16th is having a holiday event up at the new pavilion and the surrounding area up there. Please try and advertise this so people go.
That's the Festival of Lights.
Winter
Winter
wonderland.
Wonderland, from 5:30 to 7:30, I
Yeah.
think.
Yes.
Bring your parents up.
Please, the last few things that the town has done with
Friday.
great consideration and stuff. It's not been well attended.
Well, oh, I won't be. It's my Christmas.
Thank you. Correspondence or some things, I didn't even know that, I don't get this. Columbia teen burned in a fire, are they all right?
The article there.
Yes.
According to the article, they're okay?
Yeah, it says here, minor injuries,
Right. Minor burns.
minor burns.
Great, budget, no transfers, refunds. Make a motion, we authorize refunds totaling $606.24. Those listed above. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Bills. Make a motion, we approve payment of bills totaling $105,710.70, consisting of 22-23 emergency, 22-23 regular credit card and paychecks.
Was the brush hog
Yeah.
on the budget?
Brush off.
Zero turn mobile,
Yes.
sorry.
Yes, that was fun.
Yes, that was my.
That's one, sorry about that. Maybe
And it
was-
is a wider cut than we've ever had, so it'll help us.
Go faster.
Any discussion? Any more? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying the bills? Aye, thank you. Finance of citizens.
Nothing in the chat. And
There's another one.
only in.
Board member comments? Hearing none at this time, I'd like to suspend the Board of Selectmen meeting and move into executive session. And I would ask Mark to stick around, and I would invite Carol from the tax department to stay with us.
So we're going into executive session at 8:09.
We're stopping the recording right now.
We are resuming the Board of Selectmen meeting at 2100. Make a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
21. One.
Never do none.
Oh, I know. There's a lot on this meeting, okay.